الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. Tonight we're going to continue with tools for the student of knowledge. And we stopped last week on number 9, which was Tartib al-Awqat, which is basically time management. Time management and the importance of time. And again, that the student of knowledge is not what we, or what is normally known, or the famous, what people might think we're talking about. Meaning, the student of knowledge here is not only the person who goes to study overseas or something like that, but every person, to some extent, is a talib, and every Muslim, to some extent, is a student of knowledge. And how is that? Based on what? The Fard Ayn. And those areas of the religion that are Fard Ayn, those areas that it is obligatory for every individual to learn about, then a person has to learn about those areas from the religion. So there are no exceptions, as the Messenger ﷺ said, طَلَبَ الْفَرِيضَ عَلَى كُلِّ Muslim, that seeking knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. And of course, in that case, we're talking about those areas, Fard Ayn, those areas that are, it's an obligatory obligation for every person to learn those issues. طيب. So we move to Al-Amr al-Ashir, the 10th tool or piece of advice, which is تقرار ما حصلت من العلم سواء كان محفوظا أو مفهوما أو مقروءا. Repeating the knowledge, repeating it, whatever it is, not just review. Not just review, it's a part of review. A part of review is repeating the information over and over and over and over and over. Like whatever it is, whether it's something that you memorized already, or whether it's something that you're trying to understand. Maybe you're reading an explanation of a hadith, or an explanation of the ayah, explanation of the verse, and you're trying to make sure you understand it correctly, whatever it is that is done repetitively. طيب. It says وذلك لأن تكرار الشيء يزيده رسوخا في الذهن. The more a person repeats it, the more solid and grounded it is in the person's memory. Alright? So the question is, brothers, nothing. For example, if you're reading or you're memorizing a surah from the Quran, how many times are you supposed to, not for y'all, how many times are you supposed to read the surah? Or how many times are you supposed to read one verse if you memorize it? Not y'all too. But 8, J. No, you can't use his answer. At least, Sheikh. MashaAllah. 3. طيب. Some of them, it depends on how long you want it to last. You want a quick memory, you want something just to last for a couple of days, and you read it a few times. The longer you want it to stay, the longer or the more times you should read it. Right? Not my rule, but a rule that I adapted from Sheikh Abdul Muhsin al-Qasim. The Imam al Madini has a book which Khatawat al-Sa'adah, Steps to Happiness, that a couple classes were done here. I did a couple classes here from that book. But there's a chapter in the book about memorizing. You memorize the Quran. And at the end in that area, he mentioned how to memorize, for example, a surah from the Quran. So he said that each ayat should be read 20 times. The first ayat is read 20 times. And then the second ayat, you read it 20 times. And then the third ayat, you read it 20 times. The fourth ayat, you read it 20 times. The fifth ayat, for example, which may bring you to the middle of the page, you read each verse 20 times. Not 8, not 10, anything. And anything, especially if it's new. Anything under 20, if you try it, anything under 20 is still going to be shaky. 20 might be shaky, depending on the person. Anything under 20 is going to be shaky because the first few times that you read it, it's almost like you're practicing your reading. So you still might make a couple major blunders, right? By the time you get to 10, you're comfortable reading it, which doesn't mean you're not going to make a mistake. No, you haven't memorized it. You start from scratch. Right? You start from scratch. Right? Then, by the time you get to 15, you might really feel good. So if you really feel good, then that means you read it 5 more times on top of that. So if you did that for each verse, right? 5 or 6 verses. And he said, once you do those 5 or 6 verses, then you read those 6 verses all together from beginning, from the first verse to the end of the 6th verse, all together 20 times. Right? Now, once you memorize it, you come back. Right? So now we're talking about here, you come back after that for review purposes. Now, at that point, how many times do you read it? It could vary. How many times do you need to read it? Point being, there is no set number. Right? There's no set number. You got to read it twice. You have to read it 5 times. But what has to be understood is the more it's read, the longer it's going to stick. They call it the rusukh. It's going to be, let's say, engraved in your memory. Right? It's going to be stronger in your memory the more it's read. يقول بعض العلماء علماء القرآن الكريم, some of the ulama of the sciences of the Quran, they said, من حفظ بسرعة نسي بسرعة ومن ختم في 5 لم ينسى. Some of the scholars of the Quran, they would say, whoever memorizes quickly, they're going to forget it quickly. Because memorizing is not something, it's not, the benefit of it is that it remains with you. Not to just hurry up and say, I read it a bunch of times. If you read it 20 times, for example, like Sheikh Abdul Muhsin says, and it still doesn't stick, then you go to 25, 30, maybe 40. It's not a waste of time. The benefit of reading it over and over and over is to make sure that it sticks. That's the benefit of reviewing it over and over and over so that it sticks.
So this reviewing, it consists of like doing this daily, like repeating it daily?
It depends on the need. Some things might not need to be read daily. Some things might need to be read over. You got it? Thank you. Some things might need to be read monthly, maybe every 2 weeks, right? Depending. You might as well take it out. Right? So it depends on, you just slide it up. It depends on the science and the area and the information, right? In this statement, that whoever, and at the end they say, وَمَنْ خَتَمَ فِي 5 مَنْ خَتَمَ فِي 5 لَمْ يَنْسَى. Whoever finishes in 5 days, they will not forget. Meaning, مَنْ قَرَّرَ حِفْظَهُ من القرآن الكريم في كل 5 أيام مرة في الغالب أن حفظه يكون راسخا مستقرا في ذهنه. Whoever completes what they memorize every 5 days, right? Whoever completes what they memorize every 5 days, then more than likely it's going to stick with them. More than likely it's going to stick with them. Meaning, let's say for example, I memorized 2 juz of Quran. Right? I memorized 2 juz of Quran. Right? That's not a lot, but it doesn't make a difference. That's what I know. If I know 2 juz of Quran, right? If I know 1 juz of Quran, whatever I memorized, every 5 days I complete what I memorized from beginning to end. So that means every 5 days I've reviewed my 2 juz. However I break it down. If I break it down from pages, if I break down and read this number of surahs per day, 5 days come, I'm starting back over on the 6th day. 5 days come, I start back over on the 6th day, right? If I do that all year long, then those surahs are what? Strong. They're strong. Why? Takrar. That's what's meant by repetition. Yes.
So would the answer be like a set, like a form, like I gotta sit there and lock in, or can it be something like I'm driving and I'm just going in the car and I'm reciting to myself and thinking?
It could be like that. It doesn't, nothing is, at this point when it's reviewed, nothing is locked in, and everybody has to do what you have to do is what works for you. If maybe the time in your car is the time you had for review, right? It depends. There's nothing that's etched in stone to say it has to be done sitting in a certain place. Yes, it's better times, and times that are better, there's places that are better, areas that are better for it. But if I don't have the opportunity to get to that place, if that time is not good for me, then that doesn't mean I just don't do it. I just don't review, I just don't memorize. Right? I do if I have to do it in the car, I do it in the car. Right? If I have to do it on my break at work, I do it on my break at work. Right? Whatever works. So whoever memorizes quickly, they forget it quickly. And whoever completes it in 5 days, right? Then, as they say, let me inside, they won't forget it. Why? Because if you do that all year long, whatever it is that you memorize, whatever it is, if it's 3 juz and you complete 3 juz every 5 days, all year, it's going to be strong. And that's why you can hear it in a person's, the strength of their recitation when they read certain things. طيب. He says, also it should be mentioned is the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam أنه قال إذا قام صاحب القرآن فقرأ بالليل والنهار ذكره وإن لم يقم به نسيه. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, as he says, which can be found in Sahih Muslim, the Sharh of Imam an-Nawawi, that if the person who memorizes the Quran, if they stand and read it at night, in the daytime, and in the day, that they'll remember it. Right? And if they don't stand and read with it, stand meaning, praying with it, then they'll forget it. And the idea is the same thing. If you don't use it, then you lose it, right? And a lot of times it's a little more difficult to, as we say, relearn things. To relearn it sometimes is even, to relearn it sometimes is a lot more difficult than learning it the first time, or even learning it the first time correctly. Sometimes we learn stuff on our own, and we learn it the wrong way. And then when somebody corrects us, it's like we have to relearn it. But we might have been reading that thing, or we understood it a certain way for years, a couple of years, right? Now to relearn it is difficult. That happens. طيب ورد أن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما مكث بضع سنين في حفظ سورة البقرة. And it's reported that Ibn Umar رضي الله عنهما that it took him years to memorize Surah Al-Baqarah. This point itself is when the patience comes in as far as learning. Because sometimes when you're talking about repeating something over and over and over and over and over and over, you're talking about maybe an hour straight repeating the same thing. Right? Today or this morning. Then you come back after Isha and you repeat the same thing for another hour. And it might not be strong after that. Right? It still might not be strong. And when you're doing this, you know in your heart, it's not really strong, I need to do it more. Right? That means you got to come back the next day. Sit again. Or when you ride, whatever time you get, you have to use it again and again and again and again and again. And it's not a waste of time. That's the benefit of hifz, is that when you memorize something, that it stays. When you read something to understand it, the more you read it, that the understanding stays. طيب. He says the next point, الأمر الحادي عشر نشر العلم, spreading the knowledge that you learn. And the first place of spreading should be where? in your home. The people you're responsible for, the people closest to you. So yeah, he says whatever it is that you read, or whatever it is that you understood, and he mentions two things for spreading knowledge. He says, بِقَصْدِ التَّقَرُّبِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Number one, with the intention of getting closer to Allah. We're not telling people what we learned and just to let them know that I know more than you. Or let them know that I was at the class, you wasn't at the class, you missed it, I got the information, you didn't get the information. طيب. The qasd, and this all goes back to a person's intention. We can't look at people and say because the brother or the sister is telling me something now, every time somebody tells me something, we think they're trying to show off, right? We're not looking at people's hearts. When we do the thing, we have to make sure that we're doing it, seeking Allah's pleasure. So when somebody comes to me to tell me something, my assumption, having husnul dhan for the Muslim, having good thoughts about my brother, I don't think that you coming just to grandstand over me. You're trying to give me some benefit. And if that's what you are doing, then that's not my problem. Right? That's between a person and Allah Jalla Wa'ala. If they're doing something to show off, then that's on them. Right? A person can be showing off and people still benefit. Right? A person can be telling somebody something just to let them know that I know, but the people still got to benefit from it. But he might not have gotten a benefit from it based on his intention or her intention. So yeah. He says, and then the second thing, ثُمَّ بِقَصْدِ تَثْبِيتِ الْعِلْمِ. And this is mentioned in this part, that the second thing, or the second reason that knowledge is spread, in order to what? تَثْبِيتِ الْعِلْمِ, to make that knowledge firm with you, the one spreading the knowledge. Why? Because one of the ways of retaining it and keeping it fresh is teaching it. Right? You teach somebody else, and you got to try it. If you never tried it, when you learn something new, go home and explain it to somebody. Because more than likely they're going to ask you a question that you might not have thought about. And if they do ask you a question, if you do understand it, you should be able to explain it to them. Right? Whatever you explain to somebody, if they have questions about it, you can test your understanding by explaining it to somebody else. If they have a question and you can't explain the question, that means what? Fine. And I got a flaw somewhere. Somewhere I'm missing that I don't really understand everything like I thought I understood. Right? So he says the second thing is to make sure that we are retaining the knowledge ourselves or never nas. And the last thing is to benefit other people. To benefit other people. He says, so these are the three reasons. The three reasons that knowledge is spread when you hear benefit. But it's important to mention we got to make sure that when we spread things, that number one, that the information is authentic. Number two, if we understand, make sure we have the proper understanding. But it's one thing, and I use this because this is the time we live in. It's one thing to copy and paste, and a lot of times this happens a lot. This happens a whole lot. A person mentions a hadith from Sahih Bukhari, right? The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, such and such, kada. They text it and they send it to somebody. General hadith. This is spreading knowledge. No, nothing connected to it. No explanation connected to it, which is not always necessary, right? Everybody with me? They send it off. A person reads it, mashallah. The 2 rak'ahs before Fajr, the Prophet said the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr are better than the dunya and everything in it. Rak'at al-Fajr khayr min ad-dunya wa ma fiha. Or kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam, that the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr, Salat al-Fajr, are better than this world and everything in it. Right? And then they text, they send it to somebody else. Encouragement to pray the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr. Like sometimes it's not a hadith. Sometimes it's a verse from the Quran. Same thing. Like sometimes it's not a hadith or a verse from the Quran. It's a statement from one of the Salaf. Maybe the statement from of a companion. Maybe the statement of Imam Ahmed or one of the scholars from the past or one of the scholars from the present. When this happens, we have to understand the difference. That the Quran and the Sunnah, the statement of Allah and the statement of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, these are 2 statements that fall under the umbrella of being dalil, evidence, the sharia. right? It's not like the statement of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah. It's not like Hassan al-Basri, the statement of Hassan al-Basri. It's not like the statement of Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmed, Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, rahimahullah. It's not the same. Because a person will read this, and then they'll spread that, and sometimes they use that. They don't use the Quran, the verse in the Quran as a proof. They don't use the hadith as a proof. But the statement of the Shaykh is a proof that you have to do something. Clear? When in reality, the first two are proofs, and the third is not a source of evidence. It doesn't mean it's not authentic, and that was the next point. What does that mean? That means the first two are exactly dalil, proof, right? Revelation, ayah, or hadith of the Prophet. This is revelation. The third, the statement of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah, or any of the other ulama of the past or the present, are not revelation. Clear? Huh? The Quran, revelation. The Sunnah, revelation. From Allah Jalla wa'ala. The statement of Imam Ahmed, which means they're proofs, they're evidence. Say, what's the dalil? What's the proof for that? How do I know that I have to wash my face when I make wudu? What's the dalil? You gotta wash your foot or wipe your foot. What's the dalil? The person dalil is the verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. Right? Surah Al-Ma'idah. The verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah said, what's the dalil? Hadith, the Prophet said, Hadith, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, wherever it is, kada, kada, kada. What's the dalil? Well, here's a statement of Imam Malik, rahimahullah. Or here's a statement of Sheikh bin Baz. Right? Statement of Sheikh bin Baz, Imam Malik, any of the Sheikh al-Islam and Taymiyyah are not dalil. Does that mean their statement is not correct? It doesn't mean that the statement can't be correct. But it's not, and it doesn't hold the same weight as the statement of Allah and the statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's a lot of confusion because people say, I heard a hadith. And sometimes it's just quotes and it mentions the name of the book. It doesn't say who said it. It's a quote, right? And it's the name of a book, right? So a person says, well, it says it right here, Fulan, such and such. They think the book is the person. They don't know. Because the word is in Arabic, the name of the book is in Arabic, and is written out in Arabic. So a person, they don't know, right? So they assume that it is dalil. And they live their life after that, thinking that statement is proof, revelation from Allah. And it's a difference. There's a difference between legislation coming down from Allah Jalla wa'ala. And it's a difference between the statement of the people after the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's my question. Oh, from you, sorry.
So, as far as where does this really come into play? The difference. Because I understand the difference where you're saying that the little is like more if someone gives you tell you something, oh, you can't do that, and they give you the little, it's like, all right, you gotta take that.
Okay.
But if in the same sense, if somebody tell you something, they say, well, you now do such and such, and it's like, is that where you kind of got leniency if you're trying to use something other than and assuming as
J. Quran and the Sunnah and the other forms of dalil, especially the Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', Qiyas. When a person says the dalil and they mention the evidence, this means it's binding on the person to follow. There is no, right? I don't have an out from that. Allah said, when you stand and watch, or you believe, when you stand there, make wudu, watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. Like, I don't have really, okay. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you read the hadith, Sahih Bukhari, right? He brought the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam some water and he made wudu like this. Cool. Like, you bring a statement, I should say, of Imam Shafi, Imam Ahmed, Sheikh al-Islam Taymiyyah, right? Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, Imam Hassan al-Basri, they said to do this. Right? At that point, those statements is not necessary, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. But that statement is not a proof Islamically. So my question would be, well, what proof did Sheikh bin Baz use to say that? What proof did Imam Malik use to say that? And it doesn't mean that Imam Malik is wrong. It doesn't mean Imam Abu Hanifa is wrong. It doesn't mean Imam Shafi is wrong. It doesn't mean Sheikh bin Baz is wrong. And some people, and there's a level, everybody's on different levels, some people are fine taking that. Sheikh bin Baz said this, no problem. The person worships Allah based on that. It's a fatwa, basically. Right? Which is, the dalil and the fatwa is not always mentioned, and that's a whole issue by itself. Sometimes, a person asks a question, for example, a new Muslim comes, right? And they ask you a question like we said before, how to make wudu. They say, is it right? Do I have to pray like this? You say, yeah. You ain't give them no dalil, no nothing. Right? And that's what a fatwa basically is. A person comes and asks a shaykh, I did this while I was praying, is the salat correct? Nah. Sahih. Sahih. Next question. So the person, people on levels. So it doesn't mean every time somebody has it gotta be. But if a person wants more knowledge or something, right? More knowledge means you're gonna have to go further. That means the statement of the scholar, for me, or the person when they get to a certain level, I wanna know where did he get that from? We can't assume that they're the matter we know and love, whoever they are. Do we assume that they're shooting from the hip, they're making it up as they go along? No. Right? Of course they have dalil. Right? But this is the reality is, sometimes when the proof is mentioned, the person listening to the proof, they don't understand it anyway. Meaning, like, you wouldn't understand if I told you, basically. Which is realistic. Sometimes it's just like that. Depending on the person that you're talking to and their level of understanding and their background with Islamic knowledge.
So you're making a distinction between the ijtihad and the statement that they may bring down with the dalil.
Yes. It's a difference. It's a difference between the dalil and the statement of the scholar. They're not the same. Yes.
You need a separate class for this
Sorry,
issue.
you do.
But I just want to say this. It's clear what you're saying. And like you said right now, what's happening is a person will bring something that's clearly not evidence, clearly not dalil. But they'll bring it in a way when they know it's a conflicting argument to the issue. But they'll push that, this particular opinion or this particular answer, knowing that the person is not aware of the other side. You understand?
Yeah.
And they try to make it dalil.
Sorry.
And the people accept it like that and just, and then when they hear something different that may be dalil, that's contrary to that, they won't even accept it because it's been pushed by this person, that person, who they deem trustworthy.
Sorry. But that goes back to, we could use the same situation. In this issue, these issues are way more important. But it's the same situation when you go to any work you need done, and that's not your field of study. But the problem is, in this situation, it is our field of study, stuff you're talking. You go to a mechanic, because you hear a noise on your car. He can tell you anything. Right? He can tell you anything. Why? And you take it. Why? You don't know. That's his job. I assume you know what you're talking about. You got a whole shop, you're working here, there's a bunch of cars, and I'm assuming you know what you're talking about. Does that mean he's a good mechanic? Not necessarily. He might know some basic stuff, but that doesn't mean he's a good mechanic that you want to take your car to. Right? Or computers, whatever the case may be. This is more important than a car and computers and all that. This is deen. We're talking about worshiping Allah, having to die on what we're doing. If that's the case, then as long as the person that's receiving the information doesn't learn themselves, then that's what they have to deal with. The person giving the information has to be honest, trustworthy. Meaning honest with themselves and honest with the knowledge. Yes, this is this, but there are ulama, because the way we move, there are conflicting opinions in this issue. Yes, this is one issue and this is their dalil they have. It's another side of the story. Some of the scholars don't agree with that, but I don't really know that. Honestly. Some do say other than that, but I'm not sure what their proof is and why they do it. But I'm nobody. So because I don't know why they do it doesn't mean what they're saying is not correct. Clear? I don't know. And I'm nobody. So the fact that I don't know why Imam Malik said that, or Imam Shafi rahimahullah, that doesn't mean Imam Malik and Imam Shafi are wrong. Because I know what Imam Ahmed said, and I don't know what Imam Abu Hanifa said. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean that Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah is wrong. Okay, you have a question?
So at the end of the day, though, in a scenario like that, that's on you, though, right? If you, let's say, for instance, you follow somebody, and although they led you, you know what I mean, you consider them trustworthy, and they led you down that path, like, at the end of the day, that's still on you, though, because it's upon you to seek the knowledge, right? That to find out what you need to know, or you at their mercy for them giving you whatever.
Somewhat you're at their mercy, and it depends on the situation. Meaning, every situation is not the same. There are situations where people, and the clearest situation to use is a new shahada. They don't know. They come, they look at us, people here. You look like you know what you're talking. I'm new, I don't know anything. Right? And I'm just being real. People gauge on what they say. You got a sajda mark, look like you're praying a lot. Right? You din. Lihya. Huh? You got the signs that make it, you look like you know what you're talking about. I know I don't know, for sure, because I just became a Muslim. So I come, and I say, I'm not sure how to do this, I ask you a question. There are two responsibilities. The ignorant person is responsible to ask the one who they see to have more knowledge than them. That's the person who doesn't know. Their responsibility is to ask. So they come, and they ask, right? Which removes the burden off of them. The person who knows, their responsibility is to give the answer. The person who knows. If a person doesn't know, their responsibility is what? Find out. Like the person who's asked the question and they don't know the answer, their responsibility? Huh? I can't. Allahu A'lam. I don't know. If you don't know, there's nothing wrong with saying you don't know. But some people, yes, it's called taqleed. It's called, we know blind following to be a bad thing, but it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary. In a situation like what? Huh? In the sense of a new shahada comes in here right now who doesn't know anything.
Yeah, I should have prefaced my statement with that, like, depending on the circumstance.
Depending on the circumstance. A new shahada, they don't know. They're going to come in here and ask somebody what to do, and you're going to tell them. You're not going to give them no delil. Isn't that blind following? Right? You ask the sheikh a question, sheikh give you an answer. Like that, it happens all the time in the haram. They come and they say, sheikh, I did this. Is my salah correct? Now. Yes, it's correct. Now, next question. They don't ask the proof. You see what I'm saying? And the sheikh doesn't give the proof. For many reasons. One, even if he gave you the proof, you might not understand. You understand? And in that case, it's permissible to take that and live by it.
I remember you were saying it's etiquette, teaching and learning. Is that like bad etiquette to ask them, if you ask a question and they don't give you a little bit, like bad etiquette to ask them?
Not necessarily. Of course, it's done with respect and edit. But generally, a person will, or the sheikh, he understands the level of the person by the question that's being asked. But if some things, and you get the answer you get because you asked a question like that, right? And based on that question, I can tell, not me personally, the sheikh, based on the question, the sheikh can listen and tell, okay, this person doesn't have a lot of knowledge, they're not well versed. So I have to give them an answer straight to the point. I don't want to confuse them. I want to give them something that they can worship Allah with and be comfortable. Right? Another question, based on a question, the sheikh is going to say, whoa, okay, this person has some background knowledge with them, so I need to give them a little more. So a lot of times the questions are based on the answers are based on the questions. The answers are based on the questions. Clear? Point being is that before we start spreading stuff, if there's information that needs explanation, which also takes knowledge. It takes knowledge to know, okay, this issue needs explanation. I'm not touching this because why? This issue needs explanation and we'll have no time to do the explanation of it. If you know the issue already, you can say that. If you don't know the issue, everything is clear. Oh yeah, that's this. Yeah. Oh no, that's haram. You can't do that. That's bidah. Everything's clear. When the Sahaba, when people came to ask the companions, when people would come ask them questions, if they started, he would say, ask him. He would say, ask him, ask him. They would go all the way around the room until the questioner came back to the first person. Us, huh? If he asks you a question, somebody asks you a question, somebody else jump in. No. He asks you the question, somebody else here overhears this conversation jumps in. No, brother was just talking about in the class. He just said it. Like this, and no, haram. No, bid'ah. Well, what about the, no, he just said it. No, as they call it, wara. No humility. When the Sahaba, the companions were passed, don't ask me. When Imam Malik, rahimahullah, a man traveled, they said 2 months of traveling to meet Imam Malik and ask him some questions. Rahimahullah. Right? Traveled 2 months to ask Imam Malik some questions, rahimahullah. When he got there, they said the man had about 40 questions. 40 questions. Imam Malik answered like 4 of them. Imam Malik, rahimahullah. 4 out of 4 questions. The rest of the questions, he said what? Imam Malik said what? I don't know. Nothing. The Imam of al-Muwatta, he wrote that book of hadith that Imam Malik, 40 questions he said, I don't know. The man said, I'm going to have to go back and tell the people, Imam Malik doesn't know. I got to tell her this, it's crazy. 2 months, 4 questions. I'm going to have to go tell the people that Imam Malik doesn't know. What Imam Malik said? Anybody know? No, not in this case, he didn't say that. Tell him I don't know. No. Tell him I don't know. There's nothing aib, there's nothing embarrassing. I don't know. See, our problem is, we don't want people to know we don't know something. We scared. Whatever perception, whatever we got people thinking we know, we don't know. So we scared for people to find out, you really don't know? I thought you don't know that. So we scared to say I don't know. Right? Scared. It's going to affect my image. People are going to start looking at me different. I thought you knew that. You've been around a long time. You've been around a long time. You don't know that? Like, that's how we talk. Right? It might make somebody uncomfortable. Hey, I thought you knew that. Right? We scared. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, the Imam of Medina during his time, I don't know. I'm going to go tell the people you don't know. Tell them I don't know. It's fine. No, yeah, I'm not showing it. Oh, you can tell them I don't know. It's fine. Right? We got to put that back in our vocabulary. I don't know. Tayyib, which is important. All of it goes back to knowledge and giving importance to learning the basics. Everybody's not going overseas. That's not realistic in a society. I don't know any society where all of the Muslims up and went overseas to study, left their country to go study. There's always a select few that will do it. What do the other people do? They benefit. That's why you find people, they go, they study, they learn, and even in Saudi, they expect people to go back. They expect you to go back to your country and teach people. That's what they expect you to do. We didn't know that when we left. A lot of us didn't know that we had to come back. So we was just on for the ride. All right? And they said, when y'all go back to y'all country and get dawah, the first time I heard that, I said to myself, alhamdulillah. I'm from Philly. They don't need me. That's what I said. I don't have to go back. Not that they don't need, I don't have to go back to get down. I didn't come here to go back. I came here to stay with the Muslims. I didn't come here to go back. So I figured, go back and get dawah with people. I don't need, there's plenty of people back to get dawah. Alhamdulillah. So I don't know. I'm looking at other people. I don't have no students in where I'm from. Right? SubhanAllah. We got a bunch of students where I'm from, so I'm good to go. I'm on for the long ride. That's what I thought. And then I heard another teacher say it again like a year later. I'm like, why do they keep talking about going back? Who's going back? Not me. I'm not going back there. And then I heard a brother came from one of the classes with the ulama, and they said, Sheikh was talking about when we go back. And I'm like, yo, do they really like think we're going back? Do they think, why would they expect us to go back? Right? They expect you, they're teaching you. And that's the benefit that he mentions under here. When you spread knowledge, that when you die, that the benefit that the people you gave that knowledge to remains. And that's from one of the things in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that when a person dies, only 3 things remain. Which is what? Huh? A righteous child. A righteous child that makes dua for you. A righteous child that makes dua for you when you're in your grave. Right? Beneficial knowledge that people benefit from. And righteous actions.
Some form that will keep going like a well.
Sadaqah jariyah. Some type of charity that is going to keep going, that people come and benefit and benefit and benefit after you're gone. That's part of the, that's the third thing. Yeah. That's like a well. Or it could be beneficial knowledge also. People keep benefiting from it. Right? Mm-hmm. Yes. Allahu Akbar. They got something in the heart of Mecca where you can donate. Of course, it's a process. It's a nivam, it's a system, it's order. That's what we've been trying. We got to have order or it's going to be chaos. So what do? Maybe, you know how many Muslims pray in the haram at the Kaaba on a daily basis? How many Muslims come for Hajj? They have where you can donate a mushaf. You can donate a Quran to the haram. But it has to be officially stamped so that they know what's coming in and what's on the bookshelves. Right? You donate a mushaf and you leave it in the haram. How many people come and benefit from reading that Quran? How many Muslims come through the haram, pick up that mushaf? From all over the world, don't know anything about you or who put it there. All they do is come, they want to sit and read after Asr, and they read them from the mushaf you put. Reading the statements of Allah, right? How much benefit did a person keep getting even after they did from that? Right? We just come drop stuff in the masjid like this. I'm dropping these off. Don't talk to nobody. Right? Just put it up there. Then somebody else catches it and say, yo, who put this up here? Right? Well, I don't know who nobody knows. Point being, it's the same idea that somebody benefits after you're gone. All of it goes back to knowledge. But wallahi, it takes, it's not just a word, it's something. Something don't happen overnight. You don't become some type of knowledgeable person overnight. It takes time. You read the biographies of the Salaf, and even the ulama now, you read how long were they studying? Like how long did they sit and read? It takes time, and it's not, everybody doesn't have it. But the people who can, they should do it. The people who can, they should do it. There's a lot of reward in it. That's why all of those books been written about Talibah and all of those. Of course, at some level we all have to know, and then it's after that. The people who are able to go there should do it because it's a lot of reward in it. Right? But it takes over and over, and I still don't understand. Ibn Umar, they said it took him years to memorize Baqarah. How many of us sitting for years in the surah? And Ibn Umar was famous for what? Huh? Nah, what was Ibn Umar famous for? Huh? Something specific that he was famous for. Abdullah bin Umar, the son of Umar ibn Khattab, the second Khalifa over Umar, right? His son, Abdullah bin Umar, was famous for what? Right. Not that he did memorize Quran, but he was famous for something. Ibn Umar was famous, he was the one that he would try to walk and put his feet in the same place that the Prophet ﷺ walked in. He tried to do everything that the Messenger ﷺ did. If they said he put his foot and he walked here, he tried to put his foot in that footprint. Serious about following the Messenger ﷺ. Memorized, buckled up for years. It don't happen overnight. And even after years, you still may not be where you think you should be, because it's all from Allah.
First, the brother had patience. He trying to learn how to practice patience. How do you go about that?
How to learn how to practice patience. It's a lot of ways to do that. But a person, number one, has to know themselves and where they're weak at. Right? A person has to know, where am I weak? Focus on that, and nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens overnight. Shay'in for shay'in, as they say. Step by step. You gotta try to fix one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Work on that. One thing. If you try to, because some of us, we got, I got a couple things I'm dealing with. I got a couple issues, right? I can't focus on all of them at once, but this one is a problem. I think this one is a serious problem. I want to really work on this one. Let me try working on this first. And you're not going to fix it the first. You're going to slip the first time. Then you're going to slip again, right? To quit at that point is from the shaitan, right? To stop trying to fix yourself after not doing it the first time or two is from the shaitan. You don't want us to be, right? Anyway, right? So it didn't work. I tried to be patient this time. I'm just not patient. That's just not me, right? It goes to that. But it takes time. And I'm not just saying this, but if you sit and learn, you're going to learn over some time. Seeking knowledge teaches you patience. Because the more you sit, the more you see you don't know. And the more you see, I got a long way to go. I got a lot I don't know. It's going to take some time. Only got this. Then you get home and you say, dang, I got this part, but I still don't know how to do this. Then you go to class again, I got this, but I'm still missing something. Right? What you going to do? Quit? Right? It's going to take time. One of the biggest tests of patience that I personally experience is Hajj. Talking about patience, is no preparation for that. All you can do is hope and pray that Allah gives you patience to deal with it. Serious tests and Hajj. Allah understand. Tayyib. He says here at the end that the reward for spreading knowledge, it doesn't decrease a person's reward after that when they die. And the last thing we'll mention today is Al-Amr al-Thani Ashar, that Kathrat al-Shukr, to constantly thank and praise Allah, kullama izdadat ilman. Every time that you learn something new, to thank Allah. Nobody becomes knowledgeable based on who you are. It's all from Allah. And this is why Allah raises some people the knowledge over other people. Allah raises who He wants to raise, and some people are more famous, and some people are known for this, and some people gain more knowledge, some people memorize more books, some people are stronger in understanding than other people. Based on who they are? It's not based on who they are. You might read 100 times, and he reads 50 times, and his memorization is stronger. Qadr right? So, to be thankful to Allah Jalla wa Ala for giving you what He gives you, or what He gives us all, is also from the tools that a student is going to need, because it's a long road. As Shaykh al-Majid Hafidullah used to tell us, that the road is long, and y'all at the beginning of it. The road is long, it's a long road. وَأَنْتُمْ فِي الْبِدَايَةِ, he said to us. And at that time, we thought that we was really, we thought we was in it. Sheikh said, yeah, it's not what you think. You didn't even, and that's why that statement comes for the person who graduates from the university or something like that, right? That's just the key. That don't mean that it's some big, doesn't mean they don't know things, but it's not, that's the beginning. You know where to find the information now. And of course, everything varies. We can't take statements and just paint people with the whole statement. Everybody must be like this. No, it depends. Everybody's situation varies. Everybody learns different. So yes, two people graduated from the same university, but it don't mean they're on the same level as far as knowledge. It could be a big difference as far as understanding. They could have memorized the same book, but do they understand the book the same? It could be a big difference. Clear? My question is, how would you know who knows what? You gotta know it yourself. And this is part of the problem, that the person of knowledge has to be truthful. Because for real, a person is at your mercy. And that's what he was saying. You don't know. I could tell you anything. The person who knows more than you could tell you something, but they're not a truthful person. Right? They could tell you something that they could spin you on something they don't really know, so they make it sound like they know and they really don't know. How would you know that? Unless you knew it yourself. That's why it's dangerous. That's why it's dangerous, and that's why all those statements of looking at who you take your knowledge from and stuff like that is important, because the asker, the questioner is the talib. The questioner is the talib. And the talib could be used in a couple different ways. Or not the talib, the sa'il, the questioner. The sa'il, the questioner, is also used when it comes to people who are poor. Miskeen. They come and they ask you for money. And how do they come? Well, not here, bro. Here we say it, but it's not literal. In Mecca, they come like this. Alright? They come like this. They come to you poor. It's hard to turn down a person when they come like this. Please give me something. Alright? We say you always got your hand out, but it's not literal like it. You know what I'm saying? We say it. But when a person comes to you like this on the street asking for something, that's a sad. That's a question. The person of knowledge, the student of knowledge, comes as a sad, a questioner to the sheikh. Sheikh, I don't know. What's the ruling on this? What's the hukum? Give me something. That's why the famous story of I forgot his name, the man who traveled to see Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah. And when he went to travel to see Imam Ahmed, at that point, Imam Ahmed was banned from teaching. The ruler said he couldn't teach anymore. So he used to just go pray in his house and go back home. Right? He would go pray in his house and he would go back to his house and he wouldn't narrate the hadith in the masjid. So a man traveled from a far distance. So when he got there, he said, Aina Ahmed? Where's Imam Ahmed? He showed him, they said, La hadith. He's not teaching hadith. Right? He came there, there's no phones and all that, he's not teaching. There was fitna going on in the country, they prevented him, you can't teach anymore. So he's not in the masjid teaching hadith. So when he got there, they said, he's not teaching anymore. So he found out where Imam Ahmed, his house was, or I'm sorry, he saw Imam Ahmed, and he said, they didn't tell you, I'm not teaching. He said, but I came here, traveled. I came here for you to give me some knowledge. I traveled all from where I came for you to give me something. So Imam Ahmed said, rahimahullah, this is the extent that these people went through to learn. So the question is, again, what's in this information to make a person do this? Who travels 2 months to ask some questions about deen? What's in that information that push a person to do all of that? The man traveled, he gets there, Imam Ahmed can't teach. Banned from teaching by the government. The government won't let him teach. The ruler. Imam Ahmed said, Tayyib, come to me ala hayat as-sa'il, he told the man. Come to me as if you are a poor person, a questioner, asking for something. Right? Ala hayat as-sa'il, which can fit both. The sa'il is the person that's poor and they're asking for food or whatever they need. And the sa'il is the talib. He's a student. He's a person who's seeking knowledge. Come to my house, ala hayat as-sa'il. So in reality, he fits both descriptions. Right? He's a talib. He's seeking, he's asking for something, for knowledge. And at the same time, in order that the people don't know Imam Ahmed is teaching them, he told them to come to his house, as if you're poor. Visit me like you're poor every day, and I'll give you some hadith when I open the door. Everybody with me, the picture? So what happened? The man came to Imam Ahmed's house, ala hayat as-sa'il, and he would say the statement that they would say in the country at that time, that poor people, they had specific phrases that they would say when they needed food or when they needed money, right? So he would come to Imam Ahmed's house, knock on the door, and he would say what the poor people say. So anybody looking thinks what? He giving them food. And when he gives them the food, he gives them a hadith or a hadith. He narrates some hadith to them. They said the man did that for years. Sineen, years. Left his country, his comfortability, to put on this image that he's a poor person, just to do what? Learn hadith. What excuse do we have? It's a reality check. What excuse do we really have? That he did that for years. Years he did that. Right? Allah understand. Allah forgive us. I mean, I don't know how we got there, but we'll stop there. Inshallah ta'ala. Unless there's some questions. If there's no questions, we'll stop there, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Yes.